That is
Is this
literally the
you
best.
everything for Discord?
This is literally the best I'm going to be able to do. So let's go ahead and let's transition this over to here. Cool. All right, that's good. Now I can come over here to the painting cam, and I need to fix the display capture on this one. Oh, this is so much fun. Remind me never to do this again, John.
This is the first time you've ever had any technical issues on Painting with Men Off John.
I know, right? It's just never like this. It's just usually perfect, and technology is our friend. Yada yada yada. This is
Look, I've known it work as a master of straight face, but I couldn't even say that shit.
Yeah, DC. That's why you reached out to me when we were doing that one with Jeff. It's like, this guy fucking knows what the hell he's doing. We got to team up with him. All right, so there you have it, kids. I think this is as good as the show's gonna get for tonight because it's 7:21 and we haven't done Dick yet. So let's go back to the painting cam. We don't have echo. That's a bonus.
Right.
That's a bonus.
Everybody's volume doesn't suck, and there you go.
I got a guy primed in Hulk on his base. How can it be bad?
All right, taking my glasses back off so I can actually paint. So, DC, how you been?
So I guess I'll restart the rundown.
Yeah, let's do that. This time without echo.
Working at Steamforged at first contract. Worked on. Wow, that's terrible. How can I bring something up and not even remember the name of it? The bluffing game.
Shadow something.
Shadow Games? Yes, Shadow Games.
Yes.
Yep. And then started working full time. Worked a whole bunch at first on Dark Souls, the board game. Between Alex and I, we did, I think, everything that's out so far. Then Bryce Johnston joined in for some of the stuff that's been announced but not out yet. He and I worked on a lot of that stuff, and now he's working on that stuff on his own. He and I also did Dark Souls, the card game. I did kind of the initial design of the game in both expansions, and then he really led all the playtesting efforts and all the development from there on. Since I was head of game development, I did a little bit on a lot of things, tiny bit on Resident Evil, tiny bit on various projects. On Guild Ball, I was just kind of tangentially involved in most of that stuff, but had a bigger hand in a few of the releases they had. The Farmers Guild, the Ratcatchers, Minor Guild. I should have prepped. I knew I should have prepped.
Oh shit!
So many things going on, so much going on. Some of the minor guilds. The Cooks.
Blasphemous.
What's that?
Prepping for our show seems blasphemous.
Yeah, it does seem a little off.
Oh my god, we're so unprofessional.
Some Guild Ball stuff. And I feel like I'm forgetting some things. Yeah, various other projects that I'm kind of scrolling through in my head, some of which are released, some of which may be in the future, some of which may never be, but that's okay. That's just how that goes. And then my last year and a half or so there was really focused on God Tier.
Got it.
Alex Hall and I again joined up our super team to work on that game and the core rules and the starter box champions, as well as I think still all of the champions that are out so far are really stuff that he and I worked on. And now Steve Margetson, who's a great game developer, he and I worked on some stuff after Alex changed positions at Steamforged. And now I believe he's still running the show for God Tier because I transitioned from full-time to part-time in order to better care for a baby. And then due to just kind of how things worked out with their business partners, they eliminated kind of the contract employees for various departments. So just kind of got caught in that downsizing or whatever you want to call it, streamlining effort. Yeah. And I'm still doing some things. I'm working on a party game right now. Definitely not something I've really done before, but I like to to see things from every angle, and I think it gives you a better understanding of the big picture when you can take a look at things from casual card game point of view, competitive card game, board game, minis heavy board game, miniatures game, party games, all of it.
Yep, absolutely.
So yeah, doing some of that and working on some of my own projects that may or may not ever see the light of day, but keeping plenty busy.
Well, that's good. I mean, so you're still working contract work for the game industry, still doing your game development thing, and still making a living at it. That's awesome.
Well, I mostly let my wife make the living, but Jess has the ability to do that quite well, and I'm mostly raising a 2-year-old little girl at the moment.
Fantastic. 2 years old. Holy
Already,
cow.
yeah.
That's amazing.
Yep, the time flies.
So my boys are 14 and 16 now. No, 16 going on 17, which is nuts. I don't even understand what the hell that means.
It's fascinating to see how people, with the various stay-at-home orders and stuff, have reacted to their own kids. Like seeing people post things like, I never knew what being a parent even was. This is ridiculous. Because so used to various daycares, grandparents, whatever, and circumstances have caused them to spend a whole lot more time around those tiny terrors.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, it gives you an appreciation for what teachers go through on a daily basis. And I'll tell you what, you want to talk about an underpaid profession. That is an underpaid profession. I love my kids, and they're well behaved, but boy, oh boy, I'll tell you what, I wish that this shit would end.
Yeah, I actually did some subbing for a while, and it was not fun.
What were you subbing on, math or something like that, or what were you up to?
Just kind of floating,
Okay.
Not anything specific. It was during a time where I was between engineering jobs still, so quite a while ago at this point.
Way back in the day.
Yeah, just kind of as mostly as something to do, and because I was curious how it all really worked and if it was something I would be interested in teaching, and it is not. I great respect for the people who do it. My mother-in-law taught for years and years. My sister-in-law is a teacher. My own mom was a teacher, but it was not for me. I tell you what.
Well, I think that's just as important as anything else, figuring out what you don't want to do. You know?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
No doubt.
Especially when you don't spend who knows how many thousands of dollars and years of your life to figure that out. When you have that opportunity, that's ideal.
Yep, for sure. So now you're still living in South Carolina?
South Carolina at the moment. Yep. We just outside of Charlotte though. In this area, people just call it the Carolinas sometimes because there's no real divide. We cross, well, not currently, but we used to cross between North and South Carolina on an almost daily basis, Lexi and I doing things like her swim classes were in North Carolina, and then her kids listening to books being read thing was in South Carolina. So
okay.
It just doesn't make too much of a difference. It's like a lot of states when you're right on that line and commute back and forth or whatever.
Now, you are originally from the greater St. Louis area, and you lived in Seattle for a good bit of time. As people, I mean, I would assume many of the people who are watching, all 6 of them,
Right.
would remember you from your days back at Seattle-based Privateer.
Right.
Moving from those types of an environment to the South, what was the biggest thing you noticed?
Well, I mean, it's all been such a progression. It was from initially I grew up in New Jersey.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, on the Jersey Shore actually, and moved to the Cincinnati area for my first engineering job, and then from there moved to St. Louis for my second engineering job, and then to Seattle for my first full-time game development job. And then the reason we moved to this area was to try to help things work out better with my work for Student Forge was initially the plan.
Oh, really?
Then the plan shifted a bit with the whole family thing. We had tried to start a family before that for a while, and it never quite worked out right. And that time it did, so it's like, okay, well, now we got to make some new plans now that we're in this brand new place. Yeah, one of the reasons we chose this area was so that the time difference would be 5 hours to England instead of 8.
Yes.
There were times that I would have conference calls at like 3 in the morning or something my time, and it's like, this is not fun. So yeah, that was one reason, and then to be close to an international airport that had easy flights a lot of different places. So there were a lot of reasons, and the weather. The biggest change, though, since I'm finally getting around to answering your question.
Oh, that's fine. We just like talking. It's good. You don't feel obligated to actually answer any questions. Just talk.
The biggest change from Seattle to Charlotte area is definitely kind of that. People talk about the Seattle chill. I don't know if you've heard that term, but people have kind of a coldness. And it's different at work or at a game store, but just in general, going to a grocery store or something, people are just very cold and distant, and it's just a very different sort of thing. So coming to the South, where everyone is very neighborly, was a big change. Like from the first day I was here, practically, I was like, okay, yeah, this just feels different. Just being around humans feels different.
Yeah,
I guess right now it doesn't, but then it did.
I shouldn't be around humans. So.
Well, and I can identify with that too. I mean, one of the projects since last time we were together that I worked on for quite some time is actually one of the projects that killed Painting with Men Off John the first time around was Augusta. And we opened up a big roasting plant there, and I was the startup lead for that job, and I was amazed at how wonderful the people were, how friendly, how outgoing, how welcoming, and willing to really partner up with you. It's still, I think, one of the nicest group of people I've ever had the pleasure of working with, and I have to be honest. Since coming to Starbucks, I really have not worked with anybody I don't genuinely like. I mean, it's like they're all good people, and but the people from the Augusta area, which is the South. I mean, it's not Atlanta. Atlanta doesn't count. But it was really welcoming and really nice. So I can certainly appreciate what you're saying there. So let me tell you, whoever designed the hooch hauler can KMA for some of these places I've got to reach my brush into and try and paint. I'm just going to put that out there. Oh, by the way, the people are never going to effing see it because it's basically on the bottom of the damn model, and I'm never going to they'll never be able to see it. But, I know it's there, so me being the type A person I am, I got to paint it.
Yeah, well, I just ran into a tactical error with my vision model as I realized there is no way I'm going to get easily behind that cloak and everything, so that's going to end poorly.
Well,
how are you liking Marvel Crisis Protocol, John?
I've only played a couple games, but I am very much enjoying it. They really did take the best parts of a lot of games and mash it together in a fun way. Because you can see the War Machine influence, you can see like that Fantasy Flight, Star Wars Legion sort of influence. You can see they've taken a lot of stuff from other games and sort of mashed together and tried to make a great game. And I think they did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I think by this point, there's enough miniatures games out there to reference that a lot of that DNA is all more in how you combine it and how you refine it than in just kind of individual mechanics. So we're almost always going to be rolling dice and moving minis, but how it all fits together and creates enjoyment is the magic of it.
Yeah, and they didn't need to go too much for a gimmick, because the gimmick is, hey, we've got all the Marvel superheroes. That's
right.
A good enough gimmick, I mean. But yeah, so far it's been good. It can get a little stompy. It is, as dice-based games go, and especially those Fantasy Flight style dice games with the weird dice size, they can get very, very swingy really quick.
Yeah.
It's not like a good
Swingy's
2d6
word with
game.
those dice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't mind that aspect of it because I was approaching it as a fairly casual miniatures game anyway. I don't think it's one that they should want people to take too seriously, because you want younger people to be able to play it and appreciate it and not just get their face kicked in all the time if they go to the store to play.
I agree. There's the only one mistake they made, because they've got good scenario play, is they made it if you defeat all the enemy's models, you win, and that is the 40k problem. It's a huge problem in a game, because if you're going to have huge scenario play, I think you got to let it. You got to let it roll. You got to let it go on the. If you get high enough points and they can't get enough points in the end because they spend all the time beating up your people, I don't feel like they should win.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a classic problem, and I would be surprised if they didn't test it both ways and have to try to choose the lesser of two evils.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's easy for me to sit back on my chair and say, "Yeah, you shouldn't do it this way." But I've played games of, say, a comparable game, Malifaux, where someone just gets so far above, it doesn't matter how much you kill, they just have enough points you can't come back from it.
Right.
Because they sacrifice guys the right way, and that feels like a better game overall. Like it's like that little tick there, like this little tick at the bottom. It's a good feature in my opinion. I've actually we had Oz on here talking about Warcaster, and so far that game doesn't lose if all your models on the table are dead. So that's good.
For the record, that was John's other show.
Was it my other show? My bad.
Yeah, I've never.
Thanks, John.
Let's be bloody honest. It'll be a cold day in hell before anybody from Privateer comes on this show.
Fair. All right. So we talked
not because of mine.
Well, I mean, you got a lot of people at this point in time who have worked at various game companies, with Privateer being one of them, and talking about Marvel Crisis Protocol. Will and Dallas are both guys that I worked with at Privateer Press for years before I left, and they left to do different things and go different ways. I have a lot of respect for those guys. I think there's a lot of things to like about the game, but I really, really wanted it to be something it's not. So it wasn't quite for me. I always want if something is based on an IP that I do like, I want it to be reflected well. I don't want the difference between Iron Man, Hawkeye, and Captain Marvel to be that Captain Marvel rolls an extra die on her damage rolls, and Iron Man has 1 damage reduction from his iron suit. It's like, I want to feel it. I want somebody in a superheroes game. One of the first things I would do is try to create a character who was balanced and worked fine, but whose speed was infinity. Who could just be anywhere on the board every single turn. A character who was almost impossible to kill. A character that was almost impossible to hit. Because when it's just 1 die or 1 point here or there, to me that doesn't fully embrace these over-the-top fantastical superheroes in the way that I want to see someone do it successfully. And I don't think it has been done successfully yet. I'm not sure it's possible, but I would want to try.
I definitely feel what you're saying for some of them, but some of them really hit it, and some of them just sort of fall flat. Iron Man is the perfect example of someone who falls flat. He's a gun turret. I'll take him if I got the points because he is solid. He does a good job, but he does not excite me ever. Crossbones is more exciting in a game than Iron Man is.
Because of which ability?
All of them together. He's super slow, but he's super tanky. He hits reasonably hard. He's just got some solid abilities.
Okay, but solid in a miniatures gaming sense, not a super heroic sense.
Well, no, he shouldn't be too super heroic. I mean, it's Crossbones, for Christ's sake.
Right.
But he feels significantly different than another agent level like Black Widow or above agent level like Captain America.
Sure.
So in certain ones, I feel like they did it well, but you're definitely hitting the nail on the head with a couple of them. A couple of them don't excite me.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe it's possible that the ones that I saw were just not the right ones to look at, maybe.
It's absolutely a fair point. It is a very fair criticism of the game. It's a solid game. It's not the one game to rule them all. I mean, obviously, we're never going to have that. If we do, then we'll all be playing it. But
I don't think we will. It depends on. We haven't really defined what the one game to rule them all is, but there's different people out there, and different games are supposed to do different things.
Yep.
If they all hit the same notes and the same target audience, then you've still failed.
Yep, because
there's so many
one
games
minor thing will win, like the one IP will win then.
Right. There's so many games out there that hobby miniatures gamers wouldn't even blink at. They wouldn't give the time of day. That sell thousands of copies a year.
I mean, yeah, the average, a certain section of GW fans wouldn't even look twice at Marvel Crisis Protocol because there's limited conversion ability, and you're only going to have 10 models in your force. You're not even going to use them all. They're like, what is this? It's a whole different game.
I was taking it a step further to something like Disney Villainous.
Oh, yeah.
Have you heard of this one?
No.
So in Disney Villainous, it is a card game where you play one of the Disney villains. So I don't remember who's in which set or whatever, but if you name a Disney movie, the villain's probably in it. So Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland, Ursula, Cruella de Vil, Prince John from the Robin Hood animated show. Like, almost, they've got a lot of them already out there. What's that?
Or the best Robin Hood, if you prefer?
Well, I haven't tried to watch it again recently. I certainly have fond memories of it from when I was a kid. When I try to show it to Lexi someday, I'll see if that's rose-colored glasses or if it does hold up. Because I definitely enjoyed it when I was little.
I'll get Disney Plus. I might have to.
Yep. Does your Disney Plus have a lot of stuttering and visual artifacting?
No, but we have really, really good internet hooked up to the TV.
Yeah, I don't see it either, DC. And
Okay. Because we have no problem whatsoever with something that's on Amazon or Netflix. But our Disney Plus is just horrid.
Well, there's conspiracy theories for that, depending on your internet provider.
Well, it's a small local one. Not
so I doubt they would have that at all. So it's probably just a random problem.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate because sometimes you can get by and watch something, it'll be okay, and other times it's just every 5 seconds there's stuttering and audio problems and video problems.
Yeah,
I would just say I would not get through season 1 of Clone Wars if I had audio or visual problems. I would say fuck it real damn quick. More on that later.
Yeah.
Oh, so more on everything later because that's how we roll. Disney Villainous. You're playing a villain, and it's a card game, and the iconography is very simple. There's only like 5 or 6 basic icons in the entire game. The card numerical values, cards have 1 stat. That's it. There's just 1 numerical value for them. And the amount of asymmetry they built into the game, given those restrictions, is kind of amazing. And it really does capture the IP of it. Like Ursula, for example, rather than having tons of minions, just has her 2 eels and has to use contracts to kill people. Or it's Disney, so probably not kill. Eliminate the heroes that are trying to stop your villainous plan. Whereas the Queen of Hearts has tons of card soldiers that go and fight in the movie, the playing cards,
Yep.
So she's got lots of minions and has a very different style of play and has mechanics that do a good job of actually making characters shrink and grow and stuff, like a very Alice in Wonderlandy thing. And the amount that they've done with such a simple framework to create something evocative and asymmetrical is very impressive. And yet, your average hobby miniatures gamer is going to, well, look at the box and be like, yeah, no, I don't need to play that. Or if they don't, they'll glance at the rules and go, oh, yeah, I don't need to play that. Because it is so simple, but it does have a lot to explore and enjoy, and I think it's done quite well.
I've heard about the game. I know that Russ Wakeland from the D6 generation had been talking about that in one of the shows where I knew his girls really enjoyed it. And they're not super young girls, and his girls are actually fairly accomplished game players and miniature painters even. And
Yeah,
they just raved about it.
yeah. They what they nailed is evoking the movies well, I think, and to be able to have a game that has that much simplicity, yet every character you could play is trying to win a little bit differently. That's amazing.
That's cool.
Like I love to see asymmetric gameplay done well. That's one of the things we really strove for in God Tier. That the classes weren't just a different label on a champion, but that a guardian would truly play differently than a shaper or a maelstrom. And I think we were able to do that pretty well. If you look at what each character is good at, it almost always can be summed up in a way that fits their class and doesn't deviate from it too often, I should say.
Excellent.
Oh, that's super sweet. Well, John, we should probably get to the flippity bloops since you're
let's do that.
Cry for them. Got you some.
Yeah, I was like, I had to like beg to get questions this week, but hopefully we got a few, and especially ones that are maybe geared towards DC, so he can participate as well.
Well, absolutely. I'm actually going to intermix the ones that are particularly just for DC with the ones that are nominally for all of us.
Excellent.
So first one from Brett Painter, who I will spoil, asks all the DC-only questions, because Brett Painter's cool like that.
Yep.
Let's start with the topical one. What is your favorite game to play during quarantine?
Ooh.
Favorite game to play during quarantine? I don't have a good answer to this question, but I will give the answer I have. Because the games that I play most often at the moment are hide and seek and tag, which are not what I would want to be answering. But I also am not really able to play a whole lot of board games or card games or miniatures games at the moment. I played a little bit of Disney Villainous with Jess, since we mentioned that one. But I've also been playing things on the computer. When it comes to a game that lets me feel like I'm putting the world right again, I really like Stars in Shadow on Steam. It's kind of a spiritual successor to Master of Orion.
Okay.
Just kind of a galactic conquesty thing, but by getting it just makes me feel calmer, especially if I read the news, to be able to make the whole universe right again.
No, that's super legit. That's super legit. Do I get to answer this one too, John?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So, of the games, since the lockdown, I haven't played a lot of games, but what Charles and I have played a little card game called Air, Land, and Sea, which is I'm a big fan of Sit Down and Shut Up, the YouTube channel, and it's a very, very simple card game. It's almost in line with, let's say, Love Letter in the number of cards that it has. And basically what you're doing is you're trying to have the highest power on each of the different, either the air, the land, or the sea. And each card that you lay out can cause ripple effects to other cards that you've already put out there. Very simple to learn, and I've yet to beat my 14-year-old son. I mean,
That
not.
sounds like a card game version of the one Robotech game I got.
Oh yeah.
That also sounds extremely similar to a version of High Command that I made at one point, but it got turned down as not what they were looking for.
Well,
With the 3 zones
yeah,
and putting down cards that add power and then modify. Yeah.
yeah, and it's super fun, and probably would have been really successful. Sorry.
Well, I'll have to check it out. It sounds fun.
It's really
Yeah.
cheap too. So Air, Land, and Sea is the name of the game, and I got it on the Amazons. So I play a lot of that one, and then the other one, of course, that you can't really buy right now is Nemesis, and Nemesis is as much fun as you can have playing a tabletop game. It's like playing an RPG that, oh, by the way, happens to be a tabletop game, and they are going to be having a Kickstarter for the next version of it called Lockdown, and you will be able to purchase the original Nemesis in that particular. They made a deal where they got a clearance with the local game store people that they'll be able to do it.
Hmm.
Oh.
Speaking of things that are like kind of limiting what we can do, I know a lot of people are doing puzzles right now.
Mhm.
And so, as a family, granted, 2-year-old helping is very subjective. But as a family, we've done a little bit of puzzling. Right now, we're doing an 836-piece, 3-dimensional puzzle
Holy cow!
with actual like interiors you can lay out and lighting, and it's a bit of it's almost like a miniatures project as much as it is a puzzle by the time it's done.
That's really neat. I've never even heard of such a thing.
Yeah, I mean they've been around for a while. I find it interesting and enjoyable. Jess actually would rather just go back to doing flat puzzles because she doesn't like to try to think in the 3 dimensions. But it's an interesting experience. You have to approach it very differently. Thinking about what an edge is suddenly becomes very different
Oh god,
than,
yeah.
than a 2D puzzle.
Oh, I imagine. I'd break my brain. It's hurting my brain just thinking about it right now. So, all right, what's the next one, buddy?
All right. Well, the next one is, let's go to an everyone. Kari Villa asks the best model you've ever painted and the model you're most proud of.
DC, you want to lead that one off?
Not if someone else has an answer ready. I got to think about it for a minute.
I have probably both. I think actually they're both the same model. And well, I want to say the MODOK I just painted, but it's actually probably the metal Butcher I painted from, or Butcher, is it in Butcher? Killjoy from, he looks like Butcher, from Malifaux. I think I spent the most time and did the best job on that. There's a lot of detail on that. It probably is the actual best model I painted because I haven't painted too many really good models because I've always been a little afraid of them. But not anymore. Okay, I'm going.
So he's asking what's our favorite model to paint and what is the one I think
He said the
we've done
best model you ever painted and the model you're most proud of. And that's both for me.
Okay. I think that. So I'm not gonna. Best model is very difficult for me to wrap my arms around. I think that of the models that I've painted, that I think is really a fun model. I'm going to say it is rather what's the most fun model I've ever painted.
Sure.
I had a blast doing the Primal Archon, painting that because it's extremely rewarding. The amount of detail that's in it is you can do some really fun things. It's all 2-brush blended. And it really pays it certainly rewards you for doing that kind of a technique. What's the best model I've ever done? I'm very proud of my Glacier King. That I did. It was one of the first times I ever did an ice base. I'm also very proud of my Dracodile. I think that the Dracodile turned out really good, but I guess I'm most proud of my entire Gator faction, to be honest. I think that my Gators are kind of the culmination of all the years I've spent painting. They hang together as an army from a quality of painting and selection of colors better than anything else I've ever done. And I've won 3 or 4 painting competitions with models out of that army, and I think from that standpoint, I think that is a good way to grade it. So there you go. I can't paint.
Yeah, I also don't know if I've got a great answer for best model I've ever painted. I'm not a sculptor myself, and I know which ones I find a bit more fun or a bit more annoying, but that's just kind of painter preference. I'll leave the critiques of what truly the best model is to the people who have a better understanding of the field.
Yeah, I struggle with that too.
But I'll two-part the proudest one. One is my Death Jack. That's the first model that I really put as much effort into as I did, as much time into, which granted, I'm not a long-haul painter. I am essentially a get-it-on-the-table painter. That's the only way I was able to field so many different fully painted armies for War Machine and Hordes and Guild Ball and possibly whatever comes next.
Yeah.
Was just having that sort of direction rather than focusing on the improving as a painter. But the Death Jack, I put a decent chunk of time into, and at smaller local shows, even won a few painting awards for him. So nothing like John's awards, but still something to be proud of.
Mine are all locals too, DC. It's nothing. I never. The only time I ever won anything at any type of convention was when I partnered up with John Snodgrass, and we did that Bob Ross.
Right.
I painted it and he sculpted it, and we won an award out of it.
Yeah, that's a good one too to put on your proud list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my other one is my Morticians team for Guild Ball. Not any one particular model, but the team as a whole, because I painted them while Jess was pregnant with Lexi, and I did it kind of for Lexi. They are pink Morticians, which you do not see every day.
No, you
there's still blacks and grays and whites in there, but the only color on them is pink, and I'm happy with how they turned out, and I'm also proud of how that was kind of in anticipation of this new gamer who is already actually playing games. I joke around about needing to play too much hide and seek, which is true, but she is already starting to pick up some simple card games.
That's wonderful.
Awesome.
Cool.
Well, let me throw a comment in here first from the Peanut Gallery. Crimson 1919 says, 836 3D puzzle, so you're assembling a hooch hauler.
He's not wrong.
Not wrong. All right. Well, the second one, mainly for DC, the longer one from Brett Painter again. It seems like many mini games are going through edition revisions lately. Maybe I'm just more aware of these things now, but does it seem like games change editions faster to keep up with the competition?
So I think there's two parts to my answer. One part is kind of the more traditional miniatures games, the games that have been around longer. Having a 5 to 7 year cycle of new editions is important for the long-term financial viability of the product. Because you are going to reach a point where, and you've heard people say it, you just don't really need to buy anything else.
Mm-hmm.
You have what you need, you have what you want. Every now and then you'll be coaxed into buying a new model. But when a new edition drops, if you get on board, you're going to give a cash infusion to the company making the game. And that is something that, to some extent or another, you see in GW, you see in Privateer Press over the years. I think there's also what I think of as a more modern take on it. And I'm not saying that those companies can't do this version 2 or instead. But the modern take is kind of more of a video game mindset where you have a living rule set. Nothing is ever so set in stone that you can't put out an errata or put out a patch or have the game tweaked so that something that's too dominant or it will be reined in a bit and keep people's attention, keep people's interest. Because when you have a stale meta, it's the same as having a stale miniatures collection. No one's buying new things because the one thing that you need is what everybody has and what everybody's playing. So, which doesn't always happen, but can happen. And so being able to approach it more as a living rule set, whether that comes through a digital app that is your cards, or just with releasing new editions more frequently, every couple of years instead of every 5 to 8 years. So, it's a way to keep it more live and keep encouraging people to models they used to think they don't need. Oh, maybe I do want to get that guy.
So that actually is a really provocative kind of way of looking at it, DC, and I'd like to explore this just a tiny little bit deeper. I really, and we are still and will always be the podcast of positivity. Trademark, penny with Ben off John. I really struggle with whether or not I'm just the old man shaking his fist at the sky, or and whether or not I'm an outlier in this. But I mean, it's no secret. My game of choice. I've never played a game of Warhammer 40K. I played a little bit of Guild Ball, very little, and but War Machine and Hordes was my drug of choice for the better part of a decade. And when the game lost me at a competitive level was when I spent 4 rounds of going, your model does what? And it had everything to do with the cycle speed that so many of these models had. Now, I acknowledge 100% that it had gotten stale. Nobody wanted to see the troll theme force with the rune shapers over and over and over again.
Kirk?
What's that?
Kirk?
Yeah. So how do you balance that? Because the game had gotten large by that point, and there was a lot of models. And, because I was living the game almost, I could keep up with it. And then the churn just got fast. The CID turned so fast that I couldn't keep up anymore. And I no longer, I couldn't grasp it. And I've got a reasonably decent head on my shoulders. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think a big part of that is something I know I say all the time, is different games being for different people.
Indeed.
When it comes to miniature games specifically, there are a lot of players out there who find one lifestyle game, one game that they put hours and hours and hours and hours into. It can be 40, 60 hours a week that they're playing, researching, going on forums, painting, reading, and that is, to them, that hyper speed is simply what's needed for the health of the game.
Fair enough.
Because they want to be able to have the game balance, feel good and strong and fun, and they want the playing field to be diverse. But for so many people, that's just not what you want. Guild Ball was doing a new season, a little bit different than an edition, but a new season every year or two. And plenty of people were like, oh, I played last year at Adepticon. I want to play this year at Adepticon. It's like, well, you don't even have any of the right cards.
Right.
So you can't. And granted, they're now in a digital format that I believe is still free, last I checked.
Couldn't tell.
And that's different. it's a little more accessible, but you're still going to be directed towards a specific audience. You're still looking at people who maybe are a little bit more casual than other options could be. You don't really need to spend that much time to play Guild Ball and feel like you're right in the mix competitively. But it's that target audience thing. And the trickiest part of all, I think, for the game developer is trying to appeal to a broad audience. One of the things that we ran into with God Tier when we did the early access is we had people contacting us and saying, hey, this isn't complex enough. We want more complexity. We want more abilities on each card. We want more this, more that, more ways that the game would become deeper and deeper. It's like, well, there's a balance there. Mm-hmm. And we want people to be able to pick up a card and start playing a new champion. We don't want them to need to do tons of research and reading and stuff before they even put the model on the table for the first time. Now, granted, people, again, are all different and are all looking for different things. So for some people, even God Tier has a bit too much complexity. Not because the rules are complex, but because they start thinking about every possible iteration of every possible interaction. And okay, well, if this interacts with this, what if I do this and this and this? And it all just kind of piles up. Whereas other people say, oh, no, it's too simple because I can read through the cards for every model my opponent has in a minute or two and know everything they can do. It's like, well, we're all different. We're all coming at it from our own perspectives, and it makes it tough. I realize, too, I spoke about it very much from a financial standpoint, which might be a little cynical, too. Like, the people making the games do want you to have a good experience with the game as part of it as well.
Of course.
They want it to be balanced and fun and challenging without being overwhelming.
You don't have a product without both. I mean, you've got to make a buck, right. and you've got to make something that appeals to a broad enough audience, and that appeal has to be people that are willing to take the ride with you. So you have to. It's tough. I mean, you're trying to be broad, but you still need to feed your real. Fanatics might be a little bit of a strong word, but kind of heading in that direction. The people who are going to
your base.
Yeah, your base. This is a good term. Yeah. Anyway, well, thank you. That's good. I appreciate that explanation, DC, very much. I mean, I'm before this fucking disease showed up, I was kind of getting back into War Machine and Hordes again. I was enjoying going up, and I was refinding my love of the game again. And God damn it, COVID. But we'll get back to you. God bless it all. My Gators thirst for blood.
Comments on this.
Yeah.
The first one is I think DC hit something on the head when he said it made me think that I think they're trying to keep up with the new editions with the way that a online game can update. Yeah. It keeps it fresh quicker. It seems like it's the miniature way of doing that. I'm not sure if it's good or bad. And the second thing is I want to point out is we have to stop throwing shade at companies for wanting to make money. That is kind of the point. They are companies in business to make money. Yeah. They can do it in a way that doesn't F their players over. GW has, throttled back from their dark days. But we have to remember, at the end of the day, they want to make money. They need to make money. That's unfortunately how society is built right now.
Yeah. Turns out.
Yeah, I mean, because the companies that make money are the ones whose games are still on the shelves. There are plenty of games that, and I've played a bunch of them too, that you just can't find anymore.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Yep.
Well, let's get a couple lightning rounds in. Or Johnny, got something?
No. Let's plow through a couple more here, buddy, and make sure that we have an opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, you must stick around for the media section.
All right.
I picked out a Whopper too, so.
Oh, cool. Good. So Crimson1919 says, this is one we answered already. Getting rid of facing in War Machine of Hordes, yay or nay?
For me?
Yeah. What do you think? That's
absolutely. I don't even like measuring anymore. Give me some hexes no facing, no line of sight. Like, once you've played games that have depth but don't have that
Fiddliness.
element to it,
I like that.
it's so hard to go back.
Mhm.
I mean, part of it too. I'll admit I've got my own biases. When I've had people like blow up in my face for ruling on whether something was 1 angstrom in or out on a measurement, it's like, come on, guys. Like
Yeah.
having to judge events and having
Yeah.
people get so crazed
Fair enough.
about those things. I am no longer a fan of facing, measurements, even line of sight.
Well, let me tell you my trick, DC. I just go. I have terrible depth perception. You tell me if that's in or not. You can see the end over there. In or out? Out. Okay, cool. Let's go.
Groovy, let's move on. Let's all be adults about this. We're pushing
Yeah.
freaking
Yeah.
dollies all over the thing.
Yeah.
But but you can't fix humans.
No.
No.
You can try, but
No.
you won't succeed.
This is a
Correct.
true statement of fact.
All right. So, lightning round for DC. What new game in the market has you most excited?
Miniatures wise,
Any game.
I don't
Just
know.
I
game.
don't give a shit. We're easy. Answer the question.
Role playing game. That mattered to us.
Whatever.
well, the latest Kickstarter I got in the mail. I think it was just yesterday. I want to try out. It's called Monstro City, kind of like monstrosity, but CITY instead of SITY.
Oh, that sounds fun.
It is a kaiju-ish war game, but it is co-op.
Oh,
No
shit.
idea if it's any good or not, but Jess loves co-op. I like monster smashing things. The minis looked cool enough, so I'm giving it a try. So that's what I want to try next.
Nice.
All right. We'll be taking a look at that. Here's a quick one for all of us. Brian Latour, any quick thoughts on the Not Contrast Paints Kickstarter from Scale 75, if you've seen it?
I have not seen it.
They're doing basically a Kickstarter that is contrast paints, but not by GW.
I'll give you the quick take. Contrast paints are not for me. They're an interesting wash.
I would agree overall. I've seen stuff all contrast paints. It's cool. Great tool. Some people are going to use the heck out of it to get stuff on the table real quick. But not for everyone.
Nor are they for Brian Latour.
Yeah, fair enough. But it is interesting to see a Kickstarter of another company doing it, so there's not just one company doing it.
Scale 75, muy bueno.
Yeah,
Yeah, word by now.
that method is something that a lot of people have been using for a long time, just by thinning their paints.
You're
Stop.
not
Don't give
wrong,
away all the
DC. You're
things,
not
DC.
wrong. So, cool.
All right. So Brett Painter's last one for just DC. Then we have two more real quick ones and one really, really trolly one. Brett Painter, what miniature game you haven't previously worked on that you'd be interested in working on in the future?
That exists? Well,
That
I'll
exists.
answer first that doesn't exist, which would be any superhero miniatures game to try to make that thing work, where they truly feel so distinct and super heroic. Not sure it's possible, but I'd love to try. Stuff that's actually out there that I would love to kind of take a swing at. I don't know. That's a good one. I think I'm going to say Monster Apocalypse. I've always wanted to go round 2 with that game, so I'm going to go with that.
Awesome. All right, let's get the troll out of the way. I'm not sure if you'll get the reference, but it's Crimson 19's favorite troll. Spray template, 10 inches or 10.04 inches?
No inches. How many hexes away?
There you go.
Very good. I like that. And then Nevendar has two questions. I'm going to do them out of order because it leads properly in. We need the proper segues. Question the 2, red or green?
Red.
John?
I've always been a green guy. That's why I
Super
pick
green.
gators. Yeah, super green.
Super green.
Super green.
And then question the 1, now that I've watched all of Star Trek Discovery over the weekend, why does the show seem like the most episodes are too short to properly resolve their individual storylines, while at the same time there seem to be too many episodes per series?
Which Star Trek?
Discovery.
The one that's on CBS streaming. It's pretty good Star Trek. overall.
It's the CBS All Access,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. We don't have
Let,
all the access.
well, let me give you my spoiler on that. They'll tempt you with the commercial version. Don't fucking do it.
It's bad.
It's terrible. It was unwatchable. Um, but I would say, Evanar, that really I feel like the not completed character arcs help the series feel not just episodic. There's a little continuation, little chunks, sort of like is the popular way, and I've really been enjoying that. Having
Yeah.
just finished Discovery season 2, but we may not get to that tonight.
Yeah, it's on Netflix when you're in Europe, which is
Yeah, in
kind of
Europe,
fun.
Oh,
When I was in Italy all that time, I was watching Discovery. That's how I saw the first series was by being in Italy. So, yeah, and then I came back with the goddamn COVID from Italy. So there you go. So, how do you say "fuck
all
you" in
right.
Italian? I don't know. I should have learned that. I know how to say it in German. Flicken. Yeah, there you go.
Most of German sounds like that,
Yeah,
actually.
you're not wrong.
right.
You're not wrong. So,
All right, so we got movies. John and I are going to talk about the same one because I don't need to talk about more episodes of the Clone Wars other than fuck Jar Jar. I hate Anakin. Obi-Wan's obnoxious. Can Dooku just win? He's the coolest so far. Dooku and the clones. Let's swap sides. Dooku and the clones versus everyone else I'm in.
keep in mind that this is the best. The Clone Wars is the best execution of Anakin there is.
Yeah, he's better than the movies.
Yeah.
Are
Are we
we
doing?
counting Darth Vader?
I said this to Banyan, my roommate. Anakin makes Darth Vader less scary.
Yeah, okay. That's true, but I don't know if I like Clone Wars Anakin better than original trilogy Vader.
Oh no, definitely not.
Oh, no.
I'm actually waiting till I get to the good part. I'm watching at least an episode a day of Clone Wars when I can to catch up, and then when it gets good, I'm sure I'll go through a bunch of it at once. But still going, guys. I'll give you a review at the end. So far, meh.
I promise you are watching the Clone Wars for Ahsoka. You are watching that
yeah.
show for Ahsoka Tano.
I'm waiting for it to not be kidified. As soon as it's not kidified, I'm sure it's going to be solid.
It's
Because I can see the sparks there. There's some episodes there I was like, there's something here.
It's not.
I mean,
gonna,
they didn't use it,
It's
but
never.
there's something here.
It's never gonna go full not kidified, but
Right.
it's gonna get better. I promise.
Awesome. So, do we let DC start, or do we want to start with our double feature of our double team of the same movie?
I think we should let the guest have the first chance because we literally could talk for quite some time about the train wreck that we're going to talk about.
Train wreck.
So I'll make mine pretty quick. Every once in a while, I make the mistake of just clicking on whatever Netflix recommended without doing my research or anything. Just Netflix recommends this right at there at the top, and I'll just click on it if I've had a few drinks and just want to watch something before I go to bed. And so I recently watched The Platform.
The Platform, you say?
Yeah. Now, I would say that it is in my top 5 in the genre of Spanish prison food elevator movies.
Well, that's a micro genre if I ever heard one.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's in my top 5 in the genre.
Good. Love to hear the other 4, but that's fine.
No, there aren't really any other 4. It just was not. It was not something I would recommend. But it did have a prison and a food elevator, and there were some twists.
Okay.
The general concept is that they feed everyone in this prison, and it is a for whatever reason a vertical prison.
Sure.
They feed everyone by an elevator having food on it at the top, and depending on where you're located in the prison, by the time it gets to you, there may or may not be any food left.
I feel like this is Snowpiercer in a prison.
Have you seen Snowpiercer? Isn't available yet, is it?
Oh, Snowpiercer's on. I don't know what the hell that was. Anyway.
It was on something for a while, but I don't know if
Yeah.
it is anymore for now.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it came out in May.
Oh no, this has been out. Snowpiercer with Captain America. whatever.
I think there may be a remake coming. This is because we're talking about the Korean version.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh. Gotcha. The U.S. version comes out next month. I didn't even know there was a Korean version. Maybe. I mean, it certainly is about the psychology of people and your own needs versus the needs of others, and
interesting.
Yeah, but not saying go out and watch it, but it was a odd genre to start a movie and realize this is a movie about a food elevator in a Spanish prison. That's the whole plot of the movie.
Yeah, but based on its approval rating, if it sounds like your cup of tea, you will probably like it. If not, I doubt you will.
Right.
Oh, someone said it sounds like it says that it was the perfect parable for life in the time of coronavirus and a visceral investigation of how a crisis can expose not only the stratification of human society, but also the immutable strands of selfishness coded into our DNA. That sounds pretentious as fuck.
Well, I mean, we could also just say people are made of meat.
Yes. People are made of meat. So how many shots of Kraken do you give it?
3.
Wow, a whopping 3. That's good.
That sounds fair.
I mean, you're spending the entire movie in an elevator. I mean, fuck, that's at least 3 shots right there.
Yeah,
I mean,
if you do 4 or 5, you will have no idea what's going on, I don't think. And there's at least some interesting psychology there to think about for a few seconds, and then start thinking about why you watched that movie.
Fair enough.
Think about why you started watching that movie. That sounds like the perfect segue.
That's a segue right there. Ladies and gentlemen, DC gets our best segue award for 2020 right now. In the lead, in the clubhouse with the lead, if you will. Jesus Christ Vampire Slayer. That is literally the name of the movie.
First question, John. How many times did you actually facepalm during this movie?
Well, the movie's an hour and 27 minutes long. I think it was so the movie starts and the street preacher comes out of the bushes, and then I facepalmed, and then it came off when the credits were done at the end.
So one facepalm.
One facepalm that started immediately. So I think my son Charles, who watched it with me, sums up best is that when a comedy isn't good, it's very bad.
He's darn tooting there.
Yeah. And Jesus Christ Vampire Slayer, rather than being a self-aware shit show like Robo Vampire, which is fine. I have no problem. This makes Robo Vampire look like a goddamn masterpiece.
Wow.
It almost makes Robo Vampire seem coherent.
It does.
Did Robo Vampire reset the entire scale?
It's
no. Technically, cats.
Yeah. No, we keep on finding new ways to reset the scale, DC. It's been a minute. I mean, I
don't think Robo Vampire is as bad as Atlantic Rim. Atlantic Rim is pretty rough, and Cats is worse.
When last you were on the show, DC, Turkish Star Wars was our definitive 5 shots of Kraken movie. That has become, I think, John, and correct me if I'm wrong here, has developed a sort of warmth in our hearts around it.
I will take it over most of the other 5 shot of Kraken movies we've talked about.
Compared to Atlantic Rim or this shit show, or
oh my god,
or even to a certain Robo Vampire is just so fucking incoherent that it gets the 5th one. But I mean, Turkish Star Wars is almost 4 shots now, to where it's like we've reset the scale so hard it's dropped a shot. You know?
Yeah, it may have to. This movie is fuck awful. John, the musical segment.
Yes. What the hell happened there? I looked at Chuck and I said, "What the hell? This is a musical? How did that happen?" No, it's not. It's just that section.
And it's bad. It's not even like, oh, they're trying. Oh, I don't think they're trying.
Okay,
I don't think they're crime.
So the film has a total budget of $100,000, and I don't know where they spent it. I literally don't. I can't find the money. It's not
It
in
has
the
to be the
production.
plate for Santos.
It has to. And what the hell had he ever done?
Not fucking much, which is too bad because he came in and you messaged me and I wanted to be like, don't get your hopes up, but I felt like it was better to let you get your hopes up.
Yeah. So, okay, so Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter is ostensibly Jesus Christ is living in Southern California because that's where he'd live.
Technically Canada because it's Canadian.
Yeah, it's a Canadian movie, isn't it? But they're at the beach, which whatever, fucking Vancouver, okay, or something, and it for some reason it's all about lesbians, and for some reason
it's very pro-lesbian. It's very like the end message is very lesbians are fine. Stop fucking with them.
Yeah, I mean it's got that going for it. You kept it from being 6 shots of Kraken. Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah. The special effects budget is literally Caro syrup and red food coloring, and not even like they didn't even splurge on the food coloring part of that because it's just nor the Caro syrup. It's thinned down. You can tell it is.
And the fight choreography is worse than the Hamlet video me and my schoolmates made in 11th grade.
Worst running joke in terrible movie history, Miss Oddbottom getting her ass grabbed in every scene.
For a movie that tries to have a positive message at the end, it's really unfortunate as fuck. This movie defies description. It is basically Jesus has to kill vampires because vampires are killing lesbians. But literally nothing as it seems. The villain isn't interesting. His plot is lesbians because no one will miss them.
Yeah. Well, what was up with the doctor? And
he was an almost enjoyable part. He was really fucking crazy, but he was an almost enjoyable part of the movie.
Best special effect in the whole show was the red dyed socks that were intestines. They had like this long string of socks that were like they put some red something on it to make it look pink, and he was using them as nunchucks, and they were intestines. I'm scarred.
I feel like this movie would have done better by being a bunch of YouTube little mini movies that connected together. This week on Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter.
Yeah.
That would have been better.
It would have been.
Santos, the luchador, actually fucking do something.
Oh my God! Then he fell in love with the one vampire that they cured a bunch of the vampires at the end somehow. Their teeth went away, and then they were good.
Yeah. It's terrible. It's cliched. Oh my God! Just don't.
No, seriously, guys, watch Robo Vampire before this. I mean, and
I can't think of any redeeming feature in this movie that's worth spending the hour and a half on.
No, in fact, after this, I looked at Chuck and I said, "We're not doing this again for a while. We're not watching shitty fucking movies like this. We can watch I'll watch monster movies with you, or whatever. But we're not going to watch like." What that couch movie, the killer couch movie, or anything on Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime can just F straight off at this point.
Just be careful with it. I've found some good cheesy schlock on Amazon Prime. This was not part of it.
I will absolutely wait for you to find it, and I'll get back to you on all that.
Oh, so I'm back to choosing bad movies. My bad movies are better bad movies. Yay!
Yes, I am.
Who chose this one?
Oh, he did. I chose Robo Vampire. I watched it on Friday night because I was home, and what the hell? Robo Vampire sounds like a good premise.
Mistakes were made. So, Clone Wars, John. It seems like you're still a little disappointed with the Clone Wars at this point.
I am.
I have a cure. I have a cure for you, John.
What's that, buddy?
So Clone Wars is TVY7, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty sure. Easy cure. Go spend half an hour of your life watching something that's TV. Why? So things that are acceptable for uh, babies to watch on TV,
Oh,
watch just half an hour and then go back and watch Clone Wars, and you'll be like, oh, okay, I can watch this.
I was going to say, after my foray through the entire Fast and the Furious series, because nowadays, DC, I watch series for the podcast, the entire movie series. So after that, I watched the first episode of Fast and the Furious Spy Racers, their cartoon, and it's why, and it is worse than this. So, no doubt, this is merely
That's
meh.
still TVY7.
Is it? Oh my God.
It's still TVY7. TVY means there is no conflict that can't be solved with a hug.
Not for nothing, but the fever dream of Teletubbies is fairly. Watching that will reset your clock pretty hard too.
There you go.
Yeah, and again, BC, I don't hate Clone Wars. It's disappointing because it's Star Wars, and I see the potential in so many episodes, even without making it not just for kids. They could have done interesting things. The last episodes where we meet Hondo, who's supposed to be a very cool recurring character.
Yeah, Hondo's cool. Hondo hits his stride, unfortunately, in Rebels, so you're a whole series away yet.
But it's got Dooku and Anakin and Obi-Wan all captured together, and that has great potential for some interesting storytelling. But as it is TVY7, it is not aiming at interesting storytelling. It's aiming at the broadest of strokes. There's a little point, me and my roommate who watches with me because we're eating dinner, is like, can he just kill them both and go on and we can follow Dooku for the rest of this? Because he's cool.
Maybe I can help you with this, John. Maybe I can help you with this.
Well, remember, I'm committed to watching all of it.
No, I know, but I want to help you because I think there's a hook I can throw you that will help, and that is watch Palpatine and watch exactly what Palpatine's doing throughout the entire series. The way he plays.
I saw that episode. He is definitely playing both sides. Whoever wrote him is doing a bang-up job. He is part of the reason it's not just bad.
Yeah, it grows. It gets better, too. I mean, he is the level of playing both sides against the middle is pretty breathtaking.
Oh yeah, it's definitely interesting to see what he's doing there. So again, it's not like I'm going to stop watching this. I'm going to watch at least an episode a day, every day, catch up with it, and to get to the good point.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching 2 or 3 episodes a day when I was at the gym, and that's how I got through all those seasons so fast.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see because me and the roomie are done with all of Discovery, and spoiler: when you Discovery season 2, before you watch the last 2 episodes, there is a short track, the first one, called the Stowaway or something like that you should watch beforehand, or you're gonna be like, wait, I don't remember this happening. When did this happen?
What are you talking? I'm sorry, you're talking about where is this at? Is this on CBS All Access for short track?
Yeah, it's on CBS All Access. They're called short treks. They're little 15-minute like Star Trek episodes, if you will.
Okay.
And that one is directly in the continuity of Discovery.
So watch that before season 2?
Before the last 2 episodes of season 2.
Got it.
Anytime before that is fine. I'd probably say at the end, after the end of season 1.
Okay, cool.
But
Belle and I are working our way there.
Yeah, I'll look forward to talking about what's there because I've enjoyed it both.
Cool.
It is pretty good.
Excellent. Well, kids, should we put a wrap on this thing?
Absolutely.
Wow, I'll tell you what, that was DC. Thanks for being a part of the show. That was absolutely amazing.
Thank you for having me back on. Happy to come anytime. I have a blast talking to you guys.
We'll
have to get the flippity bloops early because we got some really good content in that. We have to start those earlier. It'll give you time to expound properly.
No shit. That was some
good.
good stuff. All right, folks. Well, we're going to go ahead and cue the music, and we won't have to worry so much about the any of the reverberations or anything like that as we are wont to do on this show. By the
we're
way,
on the stable platform now.
I'm going to have some discords with Discord. I'll tell you that. Anyway, so on behalf of the co-host with the most, Mr. John Spencer, and of course the best in the business, Mr. DC, I'm Menoth John. We're going to see you back here for the Wednesday night extravaganza next week. Stay sweet. Keep on washy-washy, bitches. Keep on washy-washy. We'll see you next time on the Painting with Ben Off John show. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
There you go, kids. Washy.
Washy.
Washy.